just wanted to thank So before I start, I just wanted to thank Anna for organizing it. I didn't expect such a big turnout. I'm happy that you came. I know you have classes, you have most of you work or looking for jobs. So I understand being there, I've been in your shoes. So now I'm on the other side of the table. Maybe in 10 years you will do master. And I will tell you, you'll see the presentation. I will also tell you some stories from my personal experience. The real advice, how to get into top programs. Because what you read on the websites, it's BS most of the time. You know what BS means, so I don't have to explain that. We're all adults. I will tell you how the process really works, what are the rules of the game, and you have to play the game by the rules. That's all. So I will start. Hopefully this works. I don't need a microphone. I'm quite loud, so I don't know why this 10, 15 minutes run. I'm happy with this. This is not what I wanted. This is the second part. This is okay. Okay. So this is. I will probably give it to you. The slides. Because there is a lot of information, I'm not sure if we can cover everything, well, I will try. So, just quickly, 2 words about myself. I'm doing a PhD at LBS. It's a business school, but we have a small economics department. And I'm working at LSE, and I work at the Central Bank of Azerbaijan and Sofas in Baku. So I come from the school number 134, just across the street. I'm originally from Zakatala. So I'm very, very local, normal. So I mean, you cannot become even more local than that. So that's my story. But so I want to start by asking you guys this question: who enjoys solving complex problems in your free time when you're not paid, when you're not asked? Okay, that's good. Slideshow. It's a slideshow, so I think it's better to put it in a slideshow. Yeah, this is much easier. Okay, second question. Who has actually won or got second or third place in national Olympiads or competitions in math, physics, or chemistry?
Fourth place.
Fourth place in what subject?
Mathematics.
When?
2 years ago.
What class you were in?
When I'm 10th class.
Have you continued your passion for math so far? I know it's difficult. I understand, but so if you do and if you're shy, please contact me. If you know anyone who has, contact me. I will buy you coffee and tea for the rest of your life. It's not a joke because I'm actively recruiting mathematicians and I'm trying to convert them into economics. Because most of the Nobel laureates in economics are actually engineers and mathematicians. The best economists are those who don't know economics, but they know math. Because economics is not intuition, it's not word, it's math. And then it's words which describe the math. So I hope this, it's just an introduction to get you engaged. Okay, so I have 2 parts in this presentation. First, how to get into a master's program, and then PhD. So first for PhD, for master's level. So standardized test course, you know this. Verbal is not important, so let me start with that. A lot of people nobody cares about your verbal. Really, nobody even looks at it. If you get a 0%, it means you cannot speak. But if anything about 40 or 50%, it's fine. I think my score was 62%, so it's okay. But math, you need to score 100%. Minimum requirement is 90%, but it's just on the website. They're just trying to show you that they are inclusive and they don't care. Actually, that's not true. they want you closest to 100% in math. IELTS is university specific, and don't obsess with IELTS or TOEFL. Nobody cares, really. If you have a 7.5 or 9, nobody cares. Because there are hundreds of millions of Americans and British people who speak English better than you. You need to prove them that you know math, engineering, international relations better than they do. Because you cannot compete in English with Americans. You cannot, you will lose. So if your advantage is in IELTS score, that's not an advantage. Okay?
I have a question.
Go ahead, yeah. If you have questions, please.
Yes, about the first part. You know the main point in the GMAT which increases your score is the variable part. It
Yeah.
means that LSE don't care about the high score. Let's say that if I hit the 650 and the other one is the 700, and the math score is higher than the other one, it means that they will hire me.
So it depends on the department. The LSE economics department doesn't care about GMAT. They only accept GRE. LBS accepts GMAT, but economics department only accepts GRE. If you want to do a PhD in finance, which I encourage you to do, it's the best job in the world, be a professor in finance. I'll explain why. Then you can choose. GRE is easier, that's why I took GRE. It's not a shame. If there is an easier path, you choose what's easier. You don't overcomplicate your life. GRE is easier because only the math counts. You get 170 out of 170, you're done. And verbal, you can get 150. For GMAT, it's a bit more complicated. But if you have 95% in math, but your total score is 650, it's fine. It's okay.
It's the same for finance.
For finance, so it depends on the school. For example, Oxford, they want you to speak Shakespearean English. They want high scores on verbal as well. But the LSE doesn't care. LBS usually doesn't. I'm not sure if they know my score. No, really. Because that's not what matters. That doesn't. You get the minimum score, you get closer to 100%. So that's. And you check with the school. So for coursework, there is an obsession in this country to get all A's. 5 in everything. That's not good. First of all, an A plus in sociology, nobody cares about that. A plus in international law, if you're applying for masters in finance, nobody cares. It's better to take a summer school course at Baku State University, take dynamic programming or computer programming, get B plus. That's much better than getting all A's in subjects that nobody cares about. So if you're number one in school, that will not. It looks cool, looks nice, but they don't care. So what they care about is great in difficult subjects, like econometrics or optimization theory, integration, differentiation, the stuff that you all know from high school. Our high school mathematical education is better than some of our university mathematical education. That's the fact. So take your high school books, practice them again, and try to take courses at MGU or Baku State University mathematics department. Try to take a couple of courses from there. If you have a chance to go abroad, that's your jackpot. That's your money maker. You have to go, you have to do it. Even if it means take a loan, if we take 5,000 a month loan from Unibank, do it. Trust me, do it. Because an exchange program, a semester abroad, a recommendation letter from a foreign professor, that's really nice. Even Coursera courses, if you pay and you get the certificate, that's also anything which shows your standard at the international level, not at the local level, because they don't trust you. If you have work experience at a global brand name, like the Big Four, so it's a stereotype that everyone goes to Big Four, but that's a good stereotype. I mean, Deloitte and PwC, they're recognized in London, they're recognized in the US. It's good to have experience there, especially if you get a recommendation letter from a partner who is a foreigner. That would be perfect. And recommendation letters. I put it at number 5 because it's not realistic for you to get an excellent recommendation letter now. because you're just doing your bachelor. You don't have access to foreign professors. Most of you don't have jobs at big brand names like BP or the Big Four. So it's fine. So you cannot do that. That's your disadvantage. So you have to accept it, and you have to focus on other things. Perfect score and GRE and GMAT. And please don't ask me, do I have to take the GRE? Yes, you have to. So even if the school says we don't require, but it's recommended, you should do it. Plus, the difference between a top school and an average school is just GRE. So if the difference between LSE and Manchester is GRE, take the stupid GRE and go to LSE. Why are you lowering your standards? It's not impossible. Everyone has done it before.
Will you send the slides or should we take the picture?
No, please don't take pictures. I will put it on Facebook. I will give it to another man.
Did you take the GMAT?
Sorry?
GMAT.
No, it's too difficult. I took GRE. I practiced.
Did you take it or not?
Yeah, I took the GRE. I got perfect score on math and I got 60% overall. But I practiced for like 6 months. Yeah. So, PhD. So this is what I came here for. I want you to do PhDs. And I'm sure you also want to do a PhD for different reasons. Living in New York City, living in London for 5 years, hopefully that's not the reason. But it could be one of the reasons. Location could be a reason. So one of the advantages is that you work on things which you like. You choose your topic. You do it for the rest of your life until you're 85 and you die. So nobody tells you what to do, and that's good. You have a flexible schedule, so professors can work 2-3 times a week. If you are doing, if you spend your whole life at Big Four, I'm really sorry for you. When you're 50, you will be waking up at 8, you will go home at 3 o'clock at night. I wake up at 2 during the day, watch football, and then I work. That's the lifestyle. So this is the best lifestyle. You do what you want when you want. And you will never be poor. So it's a big mistake that müəllimlər acınanırlar. That's true, unfortunately, but that's not true everywhere. Trust me, if you have a PhD from Cambridge, you will not believe in that. And plus, the students, we don't tell you, I mean, when I was a student, but even when you're a student, you will have opportunities to make money. There are always opportunities to make money. And we're talking about good money. And if you graduate, your salary will be 6 digits. So at least 100,000. It's a minimum. Even if you go to Colorado State University of Agriculture, you will get 90K, 80K. So you will never be poor. So if you think that for 5 years of PhD, instead I could become partner at Deloitte, that's stupid. So don't worry about money. You will become rich, trust me. And there is such a thing called tenure. If you get tenure, you cannot be fired. Ever. You have to kill somebody in the school to get fired. Or do a terrorist attack. If you are a normal human being, you will not get fired. That's the beauty of the academy. You can get tenure when you're 35, when you get a PhD, finish at 30, get tenure at 36, you don't get fired. What does it mean? You don't have to come to school if you don't want to. You can start your own business, do real estate, do whatever, fishing every day, and you will not get fired. That's the game, and that's part of the job. You can, and I'm an adjunct teacher at LSE. You can be an adjunct teacher at 15 different universities. You can live in Vienna, but work in Budapest. You can live in Paris and eat French food and work at LBS. You can do that. And a lot of people do that. And you don't have to be in university, you can work in government and private sector. You travel. And what matters, a lot of people actually call you müəllim or professor. So in our country, everyone is müəllim. My taxi driver is müəllim. My hairdresser is müəllim. But abroad, if you are a professor, you are a doctor. And I mean, it doesn't give you money in the pocket. I mean, but it does have value. So a lot of people forget that being called müəllimi is actually quite nice. Especially if you know you deserve it. If you're müəllimi and if you're a taxi driver. So, how to get into a top PhD program? So first of all, you need recommendation letters. Then you need recommendation letters. Then recommendation letters. The only thing, that's the only requirement. But I'm talking about recommendation letter from a Nobel laureate. That's the target. I couldn't achieve it, but my letters were okay. So your goal is to get a letter from a world famous professor. Yeah, that's the challenge. And there are different ways to do it, but that's the goal. So if you want a good PhD degree, you need 2-3 great letters. Even if you are from Harvard and you have worked at NASA and Goldman Sachs, trust me, you will not get into every PhD program. Because the PhD program, you know the phrase "uski krug"? Uski krug. You need to get into uski krug. These are the most smartest people in the world, fishing together and playing golf together and discussing global economic issues. And you want to knock into their door and to say, I want to be a consultant to World Bank, I want to teach at LBS. They say, go away. No, you have to get into the group and then you need to earn their trust. And how do you do that? You get the recommendation from someone in the USP group. It's called, in our language, TAPS. You think TAPS doesn't work in other countries? Yes, it does. But it has a name. It's called recommendation letter. If I have a recommendation letter from Paul Krugman, I will get into any problem. If you have a letter from Christopher Pisaridis, the university will call you and ask you to come. That's TAPS. But it's difficult one. It's not because of family relations, it's not because of network, it's not because he's your uncle or whatever. It's because you are so smart that Pisaridis calls and says, please hire him because he's really damn good. That's TAPS at the highest possible level. So that's the rule. Forget about, I mean, a lot of people ask, what do I write in essays? Write about anything you want, nobody will read it. Nobody gives a shit about what you have to say. I'm sorry. But especially when you're 22 or 23, when you will apply, your essays, they're terrible. Especially what you want to do in research, there it's wrong. So we know that. I mean, I'm part of the admission committee for the econ team from the students. We interviewed at the first round. If you like the person, it goes to the professors. If you really like the person, it goes to the rector, to the dean. But nobody reads the essays because we know it's wrong. So nobody looks at that. We look at recommendation letters. We check, does he or she have perfect scores? It's fine. So it's fine. It's normal. Good letter, good scores. Nobody reads your essays. So don't waste time on that.
It's only for the PhD or the master?
So if you apply for like a bachelor school in the US, if you write a story about how you helped your grandma, it could be, yes. But if you want to get a serious degree, so at the master's level, you can write about some experience, but at the PhD level, your essay is your academic statement, what you want to do in research. You don't do grammar mistake, spell check it, and that's enough. Nobody reads it. They just read the title. You want to analyze the stock market, you want to analyze the stock market, and they don't care. Just spend that time on GRE. Get a 100% score on GRE or GRE. Mathematics. So how do you get a letter? I know it's an expensive strategy, but you can do that. You can take a loan or work during the evenings and go to the summer school at LSE. Or Oxford or Bocconi, or if you want, Sergey in Czech Republic. Take a course, get an A+. Because you get an A+, you have the right to come to the professor and say, I got an A in your course, can I ask for a recommendation letter because I want to have a PhD degree, I want to work for my country, I want to become great, famous, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about money. Say that because professors like to hear. Because professors don't I mean, we could be earning a lot more money in the private sector, but professors don't do that because they don't care about that. So if you say that I want to do research, I care about your work, they will do it, and there have been precedents. If it's too expensive, try to do a master's degree. It doesn't have to be New York University or MIT. It doesn't have to be. So it could be a good school, but get a distinction and get recommendation letters from professors who are good. What does it mean to be a good professor? They have PhD degrees from top American universities. No. Yes, go ahead.
Is it possible to get E+?
Yes.
Not just
Yes.
A is not a
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. I took the summer school at LSE and I got it. And the person who recommended me, Roman Shustek, he wrote a letter for me to LBS. This is my strategy. I created it. No, I didn't create, but it's you can get an A+. It's like a distinction, like 80, 85, 89. So you can go, if you cannot do a top PhD program, do a master's program at Warwick or Edinburgh, which are good schools, but they're not enough. Look at this, go to the profile of professors who has a PhD degree from Harvard, from MIT to Princeton. They not old ones who are 65, 70. They are aksakallar, they don't care, they don't do anything, they just fish. You want active professors between 35 and 50 years old who are active in research, who are still famous. Come to them and terrorize them, annoy them, write them emails until they agree to write you a letter. That's the only way. If you don't have letters, if you have letters from Azerbaijanis, it's not going to work. No matter how you try, even if you're a genius, it won't work. If you can do an exchange semester, or if you know a foreign professor, Russians are fine. And Gimo and Guru is okay. So a new school of economics in Russia is really good. So try to use your connections, your uncles and your daddies and grandmothers, to get a connection at new economic school in Russia. And to write your letter. They will find out, because the university will call the professor that you are using. I mean, it's not good. And plus, letters are not enough. They will not accept you because of the letter. The professor needs to call his friend at the university. That's what happens. First, recommenders write you a letter, say, what's your name? You're falling asleep, so I'm trying to. Asad. So let's say Krugman writes a letter to LBS, says, Asad is one of the top students I've ever seen in my life. Admit him. No, even then it's not a guarantee. He needs to call Pisaridis and say, how are your kids doing? How's your wife? Did you like your trip to Singapore? He said, yeah, it was boring. By the way, Asad is a good student. Can you take him? I will take a look, maybe. That's how it's done. So by over phone calls. It's exactly as we're used to in this country. It's the same. So it's something that you need to, it's something that you can relate to. So the phone calls, so letters, even if you create a signature yourself, that's not going to, trust me, it has been done before. So how do you get the letter? You ask the professor to do research or teaching assistance. For free, of course. You can work for 1 or 2 years for free. I think I know. Yeah, never ask for money. Never. That's terrible. Suicide. So yeah. Try to find a foreign professor with a PhD in US school, become kremapizza, and just like terrorize that person until he or she recommends. And you will never regret it. So I wanted to do a PhD since I was 17. I'm now almost 27, so it took me 10 years of planning. So it's a lot of work, and it took me a lot of money, a lot of loans. It took me so much money just to get to London after the devaluation. So it took a lot of money. So I think I lost more money to get to PhD than I'm earning from as a teacher. But I know that in 10 years, I will be earning 50 times more, even if I stay in this country. Especially if I stay abroad, you will be just a regular person, but if you get a top PhD degree, if you become the first Azerbaijani with a PhD at MIT, you can have really high expectations when you come back. So it's good for you, and it's also good for the country, because as soon as I told the university that I want to give this presentation, they gave this room. So if you do the same, and if you come, you talk to ministers, you talk to big people, they will take you with their open arms. You will not be poor, and you will not be forgotten, but you need to work your ass off, because it's a lot of hard work. But in the end, you are becoming a legend of history. So enough of that. So if you have any questions, now is a good time. Sure.
I want to understand the ethics behind recommendation letters, because in Azerbaijan, like you can write something and send it to someone, and they can just sign it without reading it, and you can send it to somewhere, and someone can read this something, and without even contacting the person who wrote this recommendation. Like, how does the process work? Like, how is it?
So my recommender has a PhD from NYU. He has an address. Mamed@nyu.com. When I register that he is my recommender, the university LBS sends an email to his private email. He gets to his private email, he clicks on the unique link, he writes the letter there. That's not enough. I remind him 20 million times. He calls LBS and he says, take Rüstəm. So it's not an ethical matter, it's not an ethical issue. Because the only reason he recommends me is because I worked for 2 years. I wrote 2 articles and he doesn't even put my name there. I don't care. That's the rule. Yeah? So there is not an ethical. If you're applying to a small school, maybe you can do something like that. But at the 21st century, I don't think that possible. So questions?
You know that the state scholarship most of them are stopped, and all ladies, they all have the problem financial aid. And is LBS or the LSE have any exception for the good students to financing these students?
So nobody else except only like 5 countries in the world have state scholarships. Turkey doesn't have a state scholarship. Israel doesn't have a state scholarship. Russia doesn't have a state scholarship. But every year, people from Israel and Turkey and Russia, they go to MIT and LSE and they don't complain. We complain that we don't have money. The government doesn't owe us anything, especially the state education. Nothing, zero. And yes, LBS gives a full scholarship. You don't pay tuition and they pay me every month. A small amount. It helps to pay for transportation. So you will not die from starvation. Again, you will not be poor. Don't worry about money. In Oxford gives full scholarship, Cambridge, University, European University, Institute in Italy, they all give scholarships for PhDs.
Actually, Harvard also gives it, right?
Everyone. In the US, all top 50 schools.
Like by that, I mean like I even saw the Facebook post from Harvard saying that we give full scholarships to the families that are having the less income less than $65,000 per year.
For which program?
I think it was.
No.
It was bachelor. It was
Harvard Business.
But it was for bachelor or MBA, because Harvard Business School doesn't have a PhD. So you have to be careful. Every top school, Pennsylvania State, Texas State University, they all have scholarships. So forget about the state program. And the university will give you a lot more than the state program. Most universities give you more. Especially in the US. Duke Business School, Fuqua Business School gives $31,000 per year. You can check it online. I'm not making this up. This is official. I think Harvard gives $36,000 if you're doing financial economics.
will cover all expenses, living expenses, tuition,
I mean, if you want to live in Manhattan, no. But if you want to be a normal student, that's more than enough. More than enough. You share an apartment with 3 people, it's fine. So don't worry about money. Just get to the school, and then you worry about money later. More questions?
So it means that you currently live abroad, yes?
Yeah, I'm studying and working on at LBS.
Do you have plans of delivering here studies? Delivering lessons?
Yes, we're working. I'm trying to. So it's a bit difficult because of technical issues and time difference. But we had an idea to do like by Skype, to do a lesson by Skype. So starting from next semester. I don't know. It's just an idea. It will take a couple of months.
Which one would you do that?
I don't know. But yeah, so it doesn't depend on me. It depends on the school, on the university. But maybe for MBA or undergrad, I really don't know.
For example, here we have the LSE program.
Yeah, no.
So we are currently studying.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll see because yeah, we have to discuss this LSE. So I hope that was useful because this is the reality. I know maybe I'm a bit aggressive, but if you want me to do like a nice presentation, copy paste it from a website, that you're not going to learn it. So let's move on to something else. Color facts. So this is the first lecture at LSE in macro. I mean, I know you're studying who is studying at LSE? I mean, doing the LSE too. So this is the first lecture that So this is the first lecture that we will give to students in general, masters, PhD as well. And this was my first lecture as well when I was a first year student. So Nicholas Calder was a big economist. You're a big economist when someone names facts after your name, like the Calder facts, the Rüstəm facts. So you are famous when your name is on the first slide. So he established 7 facts of growth. They're like laws of physics. For hundreds of years, they have survived. They are changing now a little bit after the financial crisis, but these 7 Calder facts, they are still here. So, the first Calder fact, so the GDP growth rate in the US has been constant for over 150 years, more than 100, which is remarkable. If you take the average, there is a trend, obviously. If you measure the trend is 2% every year. First World War, Second World War, Great Depression, oil crisis, always 2% on average for the past 160 years. And if you want to do macro theory, economic growth, you need to be able to, your model needs to be able to explain this. And that's not easy. What gives you constant growth for 200 years? Is it technology? Then give me ideas. So what could explain this amazing fact? What could be the reasons?
Maybe integration of the countries. Let's say that creation of the NAFTA, countries trade each other.
When was NAFTA established? In the middle of the 20th century. I don't know the number, and as a PhD, you're not expected to memorize. It's not Zubroshko, it's about this. So it's somewhere 20th century. Let's look at the 20th century. Let's look at the 1900 and before. Can you explain this? No. Because there was no integration in 1870. Not at the same scale as today. So that cannot be. Yeah.
No corruption of decisions.
Sorry?
No corruption of decisions being made.
So corruption, what do you mean by corruption?
For example, let's say in less developed economy like Azerbaijan, is corruption.
We don't say so governance has improved. That's
Yeah.
That's yeah. So governance has improved. Still, it's not enough. People, it's not. Let me answer. It's true. It's true, but it cannot explain. I mean, you cannot improve the governance for 200 years. At some point, you please. You will get to the limit of efficiency. Efficiency can be only 100% efficient.
Trade system is other countries. Trade system is other countries.
So it's again, it is the same argument. So
Trade.
before
Petrol.
trade,
Yeah. Petrol.
no, that's not the reason. You wanted to say something. People. What do you mean people?
I would say people because in economics, like from my personal view, I think the number one factor is the person, people itself. And starting from the previous years, and everybody looked at America like a new world. They can have an idea and they come here and get everything done. So starting from the root of this country, only the people, because they had to make very hard decisions, because moving from one continent to another, it's very risky. If these people took these risks, if they came here, it means these people can do something. And starting from the roots, and the new ancestors come, and so it means they have something, like they have this potential to build and build and build on from zero, from like, because there was nothing, almost nothing when new Americans came, like in Native Americans, they didn't really have some, so they built this great contract. I would say it takes a lot of risks and efforts, and I would say the whole American dream is coming from the ancestors of Americans, building up everything.
But okay. You said
Basic government.
you mentioned three things. I will summarize it in 2 words. First, you said people. That's called human capital. Human capital can be divided into parts: physical human capital and efficiency human capital. Physical human capital is like bodies without brains. Efficiency human capital is bodies plus brains. So first of all, the population growth. Constant population growth could be enough to explain growth. If your country is growing by size, that's growing by size. If your population grows with 2% per year, which could be in fact, it's enough. It could be enough. So the easiest thing that you can mention is population growth. Second, efficient population growth. So it's not just Americans used to have like 50 children in one family. Now it's not the case. So it cannot explain the last 50 years. So it's not just the number of people, but the education level, so efficiency. Third point that you mentioned is immigration. So the US attracts the best talents in the world, which is a fact, and they have been doing that for the past 300 years. This is true. This is true. But that not. So you're saying that, but why are they attracted? So now you need to provide a second argument to explain why US is the magnet of the brains. Because of institutions or wherever. And so, but this is the argument. And the final point, and you said the word ideas. That's an important word. Because, these 4 words, physical capital, efficient capital, immigration, and ideas, a lot of big people are working on these areas. Local lawyers. So ideas, so basically innovation. But there is a problem with innovation. and ideas. What's the problem with ideas? In the sense that why cannot ideas explain this trend?
Because there's ideas.
No, but well, you said that people come up with ideas, but I'm making a counter-argument, and that's not enough. It cannot explain that growth has been 2% for the past 200 years. It's not enough. And maybe I'm wrong, but I want you why am I saying this? What's the reason? What's my argument? Why innovation cannot be the reason behind this trend? What's the reason?
Maybe it's related to the IPR. People have ideas, but they didn't tell to anybody because of big IPR regulation and rules. That's why new ideas doesn't contribute to the constant growth rate.
So very good. So for ideas to work, we need spillovers. Spillover means the idea literally spills, like water from the blood. It spills to all areas. So let's assume that we have these regulations. Let's say we have property protection, property rights, intellectual property. Let's say we have this. It's still not enough. Because there is something about ideas, which is something specific. So if you have an idea, it's like a eureka moment. It doesn't happen very often. Ideas take place only every decade or so. So one of the counter-arguments against ideas is that big ideas like internet, cell phone, they only happen every 10, 15 years. But in between the big ideas, there is still constant growth. So the question is, it's impossible to have ideas every quarter. Innovation doesn't happen like that. Innovation happens in spurts. There is a big innovation like railroad, and then there are 50 years of no innovation. So there must be something else that continues, spillovers, effect, adaptation. So there is no real answer because there are many answers. So Bob Lucas, the Nobel laureate, Robert Lucas, thinks it's the human capital, nature. So humans are getting smarter, they're getting more efficient, teachers are better, students are better, we're just getting better at what we're doing. A lot of people think it's innovation, technology. Some people think it's ideas. Ideas and innovation are different. Ideas are like an iPhone. It's an idea. Innovation is how do we make this microphone taller? That's an innovation, but it's not a big idea. It's an improvement which will make me a better, efficient teacher or something like that. But it's not an idea. So it's one of the biggest challenges. And also what I want to say, look at the little drop in the top right corner here. This is the financial crisis. Tiny, small. Why do we care so much about it? What's the big deal?
Because it's more related to our time.
Very good. Because of social media. Because of media. Now every information gets aggregated. Aggregated means collected together faster. Much faster in a matter of seconds. It gets aggregated and it gets spilled over faster. That's why the panics, they grow faster. Look at this. Look at the Great Recession. So, it's not even comparable, and yet people say, well, we were in a crisis. We're not in a crisis. It's a pretty good life, especially for Americans. Unemployment at 5%, 4.5%. It's pretty good. It's almost at full capacity. Still, people are complaining. So that's another mystery. So that's how much?
I want to ask you a question. You talked about unemployment. Let's say there is a trade-off between unemployment and inflation. And in this trade-off, which the government's policy should be keeping economy, let's say, isn't at maximum, and it decreases resources, let's say like. And in inflation, the economy, let's say, is in hard times. So what do you offer?
So first of all, we're talking about the Phillips curve. This is not causality. It's a statistical correlation. Why? Look at the past 7 years. What's the unemployment rate in the US? 5%. 4 and 5. Low. Extremely low. Efficiency at its best. What is the inflation rate? 0. So the prediction, if you believe in the Phillips curve as causality, not just correlation but causality, a fall in the unemployment rate, which has fallen from 11% to 4.5%, would mean inflation has to be at least at 3-4% level, which we don't see. So that's the economist would say, would protect himself and say, what, this is a bad argument because this is not causality and the government shouldn't do it. Based on that, based on this argument, no. Based on different arguments, yes, maybe. But based on the Phillips curve, no, because Phillips curve is dead for the past 8 years. For the previous 50 years, it was true, but for the past 5 years, no. And yes, we're focusing a lot on the US because modern economics is US. So we are mostly, unfortunately, that's the truth. So we're focusing on the US mostly. So more questions?
I think one of you mentioned brings us to the production function.
Yes. Yeah, we will get there. So the production function you have in mind is the Solow production, the Solow model. That's what you. So it's amazing that the Solow model was created 50 years ago, and it's still the best model we have. After 60 years, it's still the best model because only the Solow model can create all counterfacts. All 7 facts are the result of the Solow model. That's the only model we can do. So, constant growth rate in the US, but not true for other countries. So look at Argentina, look at China just in the past 30 years, 40 years. Sweden has had a very difficult time in the early 90s, we all know that, but then became one of the most civilized societies. And Japan has not been growing for the past 10 years. So even though US has been growing, it's difficult to explain why US is growing at 2%. It's even more difficult to explain how does the US manage to do it and other countries cannot do it. What is it specific to the US that Japan cannot replicate? Is it the language? I mean, I hope not. If it's the language, then there is no hope, right? You just have to speak English and everything will take care of it. No, it's not the language. It cannot be location. Hopefully not. So this is the Calder fact. This is not a Calder fact because Calder worked with US data, but it's still interesting why there is so heterogeneity, so much heterogeneity. So this is the capital output ratio. So if you can think of any simple production function, we have 30 more minutes. Yeah, so if you think about the production function, the 2 inputs of the production function are capital and labor, most of the time. You also have land, maybe some ideas, something else, but it's mostly capital and labor. So the ratio of capital to output has been mostly constant almost over the past 100 years. So think about it, the ratio is constant. The ratio, capital over GDP is constant, means capital is growing, GDP is growing. The ratio is constant, it means the growth rate of GDP and the growth rate of capital are equal. So what does it tell you? So US is essentially very capital intensive country. Yeah. I mean, it's almost obvious. But it's a statistical result if you just look at the line, but you need to have a model in your brain to explain it. Just like we talked about ideas and human capital, which explains this constant growth, there must be a reason it's constant, the capital output ratio. Why is it not growing or growing? So the same with consumption output ratio, but it has been, look at this, so since the 90s it has been growing. So what's the reason behind that?
Regulation.
Regulation? What do you mean by regulation?
Obviously, maybe.
No, it doesn't have to be true, because I can eat very few things, but I can eat 2 hamburgers per day. Consumption will not grow, but I will become obese. Or you can eat 15 dolmas per day and you will not become obese, but you spend more.
I think population increase, so needs increase, that's why consumption increase.
Needs increase.
Yeah.
So you can make a case that
Population increase, needs increase, and consumption increase.
yeah, but why only in the past 10 years? In the past 20 years? Why not over the past 7 to 8 years? Population has been growing.
Technology factor right, U6 happen.
Maybe stabilization of population.
Technology.
So the wages have grown. So you're saying Apple. Okay, let's say I'm buying an Apple. 10 years ago, I would buy something else. For the same $500 that I'm spending on Apple, I would buy a new TV. So you're talking about substitution. But here we're talking about the size of the pie. The composition of the pie is not important what you are buying. Someone said regulation. Who was it? No, I heard it. So it is something to do with regulation. Something happened, something really terrible happened in the 90s. Terrible, yeah.
Keeping stable amount of taxes, especially after World War.
So so cutting taxes was one of the reasons. But so after the Bush administration, yes, cut that. But there is something which happened in the 90s when Clinton was president. Even Bush, the older Bush, Bush the father, not the son. What? Fed? You're talking about Greenspan. So Greenspan held low interest rates, but it's not the reason. You said American dream before. So in the 90s, buying a house in the US became a political issue. In the early 90s, politicians, and it became extremely, in the 90s it was a big issue, there was a message that you are in the US, your American dream is to own a house.
They lived in the boxes.
Sorry?
There was a time when they lived in the boxes.
Yes, it was a time they didn't own a house. And yes, so the message became that everyone deserves a house. All Americans have a right to own a house, but not every American affords the house. They're poor Americans, and there are some Americans who don't deserve to own a house. If you're poor, if you don't have the money to pay for the house, maybe you should not be buying a house. But that was a political issue because politicians wanted to get re-elected, and for this reason. Of course, I would not say that in an official seminar, but for you, because we're all friends, that's the reason. So the political message was go to the bank, take a mortgage, and buy a house. So the reason for expansion of consumption over the past 20 years is debt or credit. Everything for the past 25 years has grown because of leverage or debt. You borrow from, in our country, it's also a very bad situation in terms of debt. Everyone has a mortgage. Most of us have a mortgage. always have family members who have a mortgage. We have consumption debts from banks, from supermarkets. We have these stupid cards, ball card, Albany card, ball cards. Please don't buy them. Don't do that. So this American dream message is very dangerous. You can buy things, you can buy an iPhone, but then you have to pay 35% interest for 10 years. Mortgage. Why can't you just rent a house? Why there is this obsession even for this region as well that everyone needs to have a house, especially young families. Young families should not own a house. You don't need a house. You need a rent. You need mobility. You need to be mobile. You need to move around the country, to move across countries, travel, and to see the world. You don't need to pay mortgage for 20 years. Especially, for guys, that's more relevant culturally. For girls as well, who cares about the house? You take a rent at Ahmedli and travel by bus. Because 50% of your salary will be paid on mortgage, and the rest 50% on pampers. I mean, that's the reality. But the mortgage debt is a bad thing. Debt is very dangerous. And a lot of Americans, because they're uneducated, there was the political message, because they were told by the banks, because the banks thought, if something goes wrong, the government will help us. That's exactly what happened. And that's what's happening in every country. If something goes wrong, if you don't pay back the debt, the banker will get bailed out by the government, because the bank has state guarantee. Either it's state-owned, or it is de facto state-owned. In the US, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they're not state-owned, but they're state-owned, right? So a lot of Americans made this mistake. They took the mortgage, they consumed a lot, they bought these houses, because houses is consumption. The houses sit in this number. That's why consumption grew so much. But it's what
the reason the financial crisis happened?
It's one of the reasons. So after the 2001, our dear friend Alan Greenspan, I hope I don't get hurt. Our dear friend, he didn't. So the interest rates after the crisis are supposed to go up. You should increase interest rates to make it harder to borrow money. But in the United States, 2001 crisis finishes, interest rates stayed low for 2 or 3 more years. Very low, 0 to 1%. Sorry?
I thought it was 1%.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good guess. Around 1%. And that 1% was it was too low for the growth that US had in this region. So a lot of people, there was confidence, there was euphoria. It was thought that now finally the Soviets are defeated, now we're the kings of the world, and everyone got debt from each other. Banks were leveraged, consumers were leveraged, the government took debt. But again, the government will never be bankrupt. The taxpayer, the consumer will get debt. The government will not get debt. The government can print money. You cannot print money. You can try, but you'll go to jail. So the consumers got leverage, bankers got leverage. In the end, bankers got bailed out by the government, and consumers are suffering. It has happened before, it will happen again. In 20 years, we'll have another crisis and another crisis. But in 20 years, it will not be because of mortgages, it will be because of iPhone credits. Or then it will be because of child education credit. The message will be, you don't want your children to have a college degree, you are a bad parent. It will be a political message just like 20 years ago. You deserve a house, go buy a house, we will help you. No, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's just yes. So this is a massive spike in leverage, debt, and if you see, I mean, here you don't see that very often. You don't see that like it has gone down very much. Because consumption is a flow, it's not a store. It's a flow variable. You cannot burn a house, you already bought it. So yeah, enough of the depressive story about debt. So now another depressing story about stock market. So stock market, fact number 4, the return on the stock market in the US has been 7% for the past 200 years, which is amazing. It really is. Even before, like the New York Stock Exchange that you will see on the TVs, it has been when people were trading by papers. It was 7%. So why 7? Why not 6.1? Why not 15? So it's really amazing. So if I myself or any other PhD student, if we have a paper or an article or a model, if our article doesn't produce average stock return of 7%, that's a bad article. That's a fact, and every theoretical model needs to produce this fact. So something I wanted to say about the stock market. So here, what happens to the stock market in a crisis? The stock market goes down. What should you do? You should buy. When in a stock crash, you should buy. You should sell your house. You should borrow. Exactly. That's a good time to borrow in a bad situation because interest rates are 0. You borrow at 0%. You sell your grandmother's house. You go to the stock market and you buy something for $20, but the value is $50. You wait for 10 years to sell. But the problem is that it's not easy. It's easy to say. So why do you think, I mean, if I knew that, why didn't I do it? Now you know. So next time you see a crash, you wait until it hits the bottom, like the oil price. Is 40 the lowest price? No. 30? No. 20? Maybe. Buy futures. Bet on the increase. If you're wrong, you lose. If you get it, you make a lot of money. So why is it that a lot of people cannot take this strategy?
They couldn't predict.
Sorry?
They couldn't predict.
So, yeah, they cannot predict, yeah.
Expectations.
What do you mean?
Prediction.
I remember from Mankiw's book that actually I think it was Milton Friedman who said that everything depends on expectations of people, and if you don't expect that something optimistic will happen in the future, you just sit down and do nothing and just watch.
So, I mean, but that's like, let's talk about people with education. People understand, educated people, they understand that crisis is going. They understood very well that, I mean, stock prices of every corporation went up, including those who were fine. And if you're an investment analyst, and if you look at the valuation model, you understand that the price is too low. And there is something else. It's not just about exploitation. It's called limits to arbitrage. It's an article by Andrei Schleifer, which you should read. He is a Russian-American professor of Harvard and one of the candidates for Nobel Prize in macroeconomics. His argument is that your hands are tied precisely in the bad situation. In a bad situation, what should you do? You should borrow and buy. But no, you cannot borrow in the bad situation because nobody has the money. You can do that in the good situation. That's why everyone is doing it. In 2005, when everything was booming, that's why we had debt, leverage, more mortgage. Debt, mortgage, debt, mortgage. In a good situation, it's easy to get money, to borrow. But in the bad situation, exactly when you should borrow, you cannot do it. So that's called limit to arbitrage. Because this is arbitrage, it's an arbitrary opportunity. You're buying something for 20, wait for 5 years, sell for 50. You're making money out of no cost. But there are limits to arbitrage because to buy it at 20, you first need to borrow those 20. So despite all this, 7% for 200 years. Limits to arbitrage, no limits to arbitrage, unlimited arbitrage, 7%. It's a puzzle. It's called an equity premium puzzle. It was written by Mehra and Prescott, the Nobel Prize winner. It was written in 1982, I think. It's still a puzzle. Why 7%? So Fact 5, labor share is falling. So blue line is labor share in production. Look, it has fallen. And capital is more or less stable. So this is a big, it's a very bad thing. That labor share. Why is it a bad? Yeah. So this is something that Americans don't understand. That's why they elected the most incredible president in the history of the world. Because they are complaining that jobs are bad and there is a lot of unemployment. But this unemployment is structural. It is, it's because of the change in the structure of the economy. Trump cannot bring back the jobs from China. They're lost forever. The economy has changed, right? We don't do penicillin when you're sick. You have much stronger drugs. So things have changed. So the labor share is falling, it will continue to fall, and in 100 years it will switch. If you see just a little bit how capital begins to start growing. So it will switch at 50, in about 50%, and then it will, and there will be high unemployment, and but population growth is still high. Population will grow, and the population of uneducated people will grow. Because European advanced economies, their population growth rate is very small. They don't create babies so much. But it's the uneducated, so that's the problem. So it's not just an economic problem, it's a demographic problem. So for which there is no answer. At least I cannot think of this answer. So this is fact number 5. So the labor share is falling in all countries. So, which is sort of, it's obvious, but it's good to see for all industrial countries.
What's the green one?
Sorry?
Green one. Red one is labor share.
It's a trend. Red, it's just a linear trend. Red line is just a trend. You can do it in Excel. So we can do it. Should we finish? You can go now, right? I thought you told us 80 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm almost done. So it's good. So hours. So if you look at this graph, what do you think? Hours are constant or falling? Well, tell me, what about this? Is the line constant or is it falling?
It's falling.
Yeah, but over the past 30 years it has been. So take a look at the beginning of the time. So it's 1900. So now I will show you another graph from 1800. What about now? Hours. Hours have dropped really, really fast. So average hours per work is now 40. In a lot of countries, people work 35 hours. Officially work. Do we really work 8 hours a day? No. We Facebook 1 hour, we drink tea 6 hours, and then we work for 20 minutes. And it's in a lot of countries it's the same. So officially, that's the official number. So productivity has increased, obviously. But productivity has increased even more if you take into consideration that unofficially people work even less than 8 hours a day. So really, we only work about 6 hours a day. And still we see all this constant growth and consumption and all this stuff. So if you believe in productivity, this is your jackpot. Because you think, nobody works 8 hours a day, especially in the US, they just sit around and write crosswords or something. Right? So if you believe in productivity, this is you show this graph to everybody. And wages have increased. So real wage has increased. Not real, that's important. Because nominal wages are growing, obviously, but inflation is growing as well. What we care about is the real wage. Nominal wage minus inflation. But over the past, it's an old picture, but it has sort of stopped. Yeah. That's not good. So summary, constant growth rate, capital output ratio. So which one do you think is the most interesting one?
What?
The first one. It's the most difficult one because GDP has everything inside. It's difficult. So that's it for me. You will get these slides. I think this one I will not give you because this belongs to LBS. But the other ones I will give you for sure. The admission slides I will give you. This ones. But the other ones I have to check. I don't think I have the permission. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. You can find me on Facebook, so if you do have any questions, please feel free, and I usually respond quickly.